I think there's a lot to be said for humor and inspiration.
Well, my whole idea is it's far better to wake up in the morning with something in your email that will make you smile, and it might last you through the day and get through all the tough stuff that we're all going to face every day.
Bill Williams is too much fun. And that fits because he's been spreading joy and wisdom through his daily email series, A Thought for the Day, for 20 years. Now, these wonderful emails are curated into the 20 Years of Internet Humor book series, which captured decades of lighthearted storytelling and practical wisdom. Please welcome Bill to Bump in the Road. Bill, welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, tell us your story.
Well, Pat, my story is a long one. I spent many years in broadcasting, radio, television, and all that sort of stuff. This was in Washington, D.C. for 20 years with my own communications consulting company and a publishing company. And had a great idea for a new product called Interstate Travelers Guides. It was voted the best business plan of 1984. And we had some funding for it. Discover Card wanted to use it as Discover the Interstate Highway System. And we had the first volume ready to go when the stock market crashed and something else happened, and that was something called GPS arrived on the scene, which said, well, maybe this isn't such a good idea after all. And funding disappeared. I was wound up leaving, needing about $500,000 to pay short-term debt. So I closed up the businesses and changed careers, got into insurance. And it wasn't one of my favorite things because I wasn't terribly pleased with the idea of being an insurance agent. I thought I was going to hate it, but it turned out I was good at it. It turned out 32 years in it, got a pretty decent reputation. But I had a problem with the insurance in that I had an agency that had some agents throughout the Midwest, and it was back in the 90s, and something called email was new. The internet itself was new, and all of my agents had email, but they never read it. And so I started sending out a thought for the day, something humorous, something inspirational, to try to get them to just read their emails. And it worked. They did. And they started sharing them with their clients, and the clients thought, hey, this is pretty good. Could we get on the list? And well, there was no postage, so add them to the list, not a problem. And that was more than 30 years ago. And now I'm still sending them out every day, Monday through Friday, to people all over North America, to Europe, to Asia, Australia. And I do it because I like it. I haven't made a dime off it because, hey, the internet's free. You know, you don't charge for it. But then I got the idea with all of these things clogging up my computer, it might make a good book. And after a bunch of hassles, first volume called 20 Years of Internet Humor and some other interesting things arrived earlier this year. And so far it's been doing very well. I'm very pleased.
Do you have plans for more books?
It says volume 1, and I've got enough material for 10 or 12.
Is there a theme to each volume, or is it a time frame?
How about neither of the above? You know, it was one of the things. First of all, we will have some future volumes with a theme for like kids, aging, golf, because I've got enough material for all of those. But when we put this together, I tried to figure out what would be a good way to do it. And do we do it Monday through, 2005, 2006? So I started just looking at the A's. Let's do some A's and some B's and some C's and some D's. And I went through the whole alphabet. And the first volume has about 180 stories in it. And hey, second volume is ready to go. And it's the same way, just moving down the alphabet.
Rather like Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Very much so. There's no real theme to each volume. It's some of everything. So if you don't like what I just wrote or you just read, turn the page and there's something new there.
I think there's a lot to be said for humor and inspiration.
Well, my whole idea is it's far better to wake up in the morning with something in your email that will make you smile and it might last you through the day and get through all the tough stuff that we're all going to face every day.
I find it amusing that back in what would have been in the 90s, I think, that people were not opening all their email then because it was a relatively new thing.
It was new, and quite frankly, it was difficult. I mean, just getting on the internet with having to dial up onto something and a 50 baud modem that would take forever to load, and it was just really a pain in the posterior.
I can remember you needed to have some basic DOS in many cases in order to access the web.
Oh
And,
yeah.
yeah, I bought a new computer, 94, 95-ish, and it was the hottest, newest thing, a notebook computer, because I was taking my plane cross country that year, and I wanted to be able to keep in touch with people. But the learning curve in terms of accessing the web was not insignificant.
That's absolutely true. And,
Yeah.
if you go back even a little bit further, they didn't really have internet per se. They had bulletin boards.
Yeah.
And you had to get on the bulletin board and be a member of the bulletin board to pass messages to the other people on the bulletin board. And if you weren't on the bulletin board, you were out of luck.
Have things changed that much in some
Yeah,
ways?
really.
I would go back to having to change careers like that. That had to be devastating. I mean, what do you do when everything falls apart like that?
You buckle up and do whatever it is you got to do. But something else happened about the same time, and had that crisis not have occurred, I probably would have changed careers anyway, because Kodak went out of business, and I was a photographer and a filmmaker, and all of a sudden everything was digital. And if you wanted to catch up with it, everything had to change. You had to get new cameras, you had to get new equipment, you had to get new everything. And I had been writing for a couple of the professional trade magazines in photography. In some cases, I did entire issues for them. And right after I made the change, my editor called me up and said, "Hey, would you do an issue on digital photography?" And I'd been out of it for maybe 6 months. But I said, "Sure, I'll do it." And 2 weeks later, I called him back and said, "Dave, you're going to have to get somebody else to do this for you, because after 6 months, I am so far behind, I don't even know the questions to ask anymore."
That was a profound change in that you didn't have all the support equipment around you, like Lightroom and things like that for post-processing at that point in time while the shift was being made, or if they were there, I'm guessing they were pretty primitive.
Like I say, I got out of it when this change started.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they were doing, but I do know that now they can do things I never even dreamed of and do it with the push of a button. In the past, I'd go out to make a film. I'd take a crew with me, go up to wherever it was. We'd shoot it on film, come back, send it to the lab, take a week to get the film back from the lab, have a print of it made. Then you have to edit it. And so before you can actually have something to show, even a rough edit, unless you're doing news or something like that, where it really doesn't matter the quality, it'd take you a week or 10 days or 2 weeks or a month to get something out there. Today, you take a camera that you can carry in your pocket, push a few buttons, and send it out 10 minutes later.
Are you still involved in photography in any way?
Not really. Yes, after 30 some years of doing it, I love to take pictures, but it's not the same thing. And in the past, when I was taking a picture, it was always, what can I use this for? Or is there a market for this? Now the pictures are of my daughters or their dogs, or, a pretty scene that has no use to anybody but me. Carry it on my phone. It's just not the same world.
No, it's interesting. I am fairly involved in photography these days. I wasn't back then. And I often wonder what will happen to all this data I've put together when I'm no longer here. And in a way, it's a little transcendent and a little creepy in that my pictures and words will live much longer than I will.
That's true, I think, for all of us. I've got, a ton of slides and things like that when I have time, I really would like to go back and edit, Another story. One of my occasions, I was allowed to be the first photographer to photograph on the Hopi Indian Reservation
Oh, wow.
right after a disaster back in the late 70s. And I still have those pictures. The proviso was that those pictures could never be used for commercial purposes. And so they were historical documents. But what I really want to do is put a series of those pictures together and take it out and give it as a gift to the Hopi tribe.
Oh, you should do that. I think it would be greatly appreciated.
I think it would too. It's just getting the time.
Well, it's interesting. Photography changes so much and so quickly, like everything else. This move recently from DSLR to mirrorless, in the last 10 years or so, has created another set of issues for people in that the lenses aren't necessarily compatible. They may be compatible with a converter, but as time goes on, DSLR becomes less and less attractive and mirrorless more and more. What do you do with all these very expensive lenses?
Same thing I did when the film cameras that I had were useless. Change.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the change becomes inevitable whether you want it or not.
Yeah.
I will send you 2 pictures. I was out, in the Awani, Mountains recently, which are in southwest Idaho, and we were looking for a herd of wild horses. And we saw the herd up on top of a mountain, so we had to climb up with all our gear and everything, but we couldn't quite go over the crest because we would have spooked them, and there was a young foal, in the herd. So we went up as far as we could and got our tripod set up and shot some pictures. And I will send you 2 pictures because you'll just laugh. The first picture is of 3 horses. The final picture is only of 1 horse. It's the same picture, the white horse in the middle. And the 2 pictures really look nothing alike. It's astonishing what you can do in terms of adding and removing things from pictures these days, and the post-production processes are beyond creative.
Well, I'll tell you, when I first got into photography, I got a job, and what they did was they sent me down into the dark room. And I spent all the time in the dark room developing and printing pictures and making enlargements and doing all the necessary by hand dodging and things to make them look good.
Mhm.
It was for a news organization, and the people who were taking the pictures didn't have a lot of skills. And at the time, we all used a flash that was off camera that you had to hold in your hand, and sometimes it was not aimed properly, and the light would cut somebody in, and and I'd have to go in and dodge it out. And after I was at this for a couple of months, I got a call from upstairs saying, "I think you've arrived, Bill." And I said, "Why? It's that last picture you sent up." He said, "That you did what you did to the complexions." And I said, "I thought I made them look okay." And they said, "Well, you would have with one exception. We had a black, we had a Latin, we had a Chinese, and we had a white person, and you made them all look the same."
Lighting is everything in photography. It is just everything, I think.
It certainly is a lot of it, for sure. And
So
it's not, the change just hasn't been recent, because if you take it back another 100 years, because
mhm,
you look at the fact that you had to carry a wagon load of chemicals with you and process the film as soon as you exposed it.
yep.
You know, I was sitting in the University of Texas, where I was on the faculty for a while, has a very good, or at least did at the time, photographic museum. And I was in the office of the head of the museum, who was a friend. And there was this big, heavy thing on his desk, and I was picking up and looking at it, and there was sort of an image in there. And I said, "What is this?" And he says, "Handle that very carefully. That is the world's first photograph." And you may have seen a picture of it. It's a barnyard, a very faint image of a barn taken in France in 1839 or something like that. And they had it at the University of Texas. It was in between 2 huge glass plates and sealed in helium, which is why it
Mhm.
weighed so much. But I held it in my hands.
You've seen a lot of change in your life. What are some of the lessons to be learned from change?
Change is constant. It goes on, and he who doesn't change is lost. You got to go with the blows.
No, I tend to agree. I think either you change incrementally or you face catastrophic change because I don't think there's much in between.
And you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You know, because like I said, when I made the change, it was not okay. Let's take some time and work this out. It's okay. You're doing it now.
If you want a paycheck, you're doing it now.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I've seen a real break with my peers too in that regard. In that, when I was in my early 50s, I started getting involved on the web in a different project than this. And I had to learn some of the social media platforms. I had to learn how to reach out on them. I had to learn a lot about WordPress. It took me off on a tangent I never expected. Now I'm incredibly grateful for all that because all that has continued to evolve. These days, I'm a little more focused on SEO and YouTube and trying to learn to maximize that. But I look around my peer groups and I said to somebody the other day, I was working on SEO and they said, "What is that?" And I thought, search engine optimization. The fact that in this day and age, you wouldn't have any understanding of search engine optimization seems to me a little a little amazing, but perhaps I'm just being narrow because I spend so much time online.
Well, I will have to admit that I know what it means, but I don't know how to do it.
Oh, it's a nightmare. Don't even bother.
No, I understand, which is why I don't do it. But there is just so much out there that you can't know it all.
Yeah.
I started writing professionally in the 1960s, for God's sakes. Okay. And I have published, I have done motion pictures, I have done television scripts, I have done every kind of writing that you can imagine. But I never published a book until this one came out, that I did this one. And I realized that with all the writing I've done and publishing I've done and my experience, I didn't know squat about a book. I mean, it's not just thick pages. The whole idea of publishing and how you get it distributed and everything else, this is a whole new experience for me.
Well, and the game has changed enormously in the last 10 years.
And that's one of the reasons I didn't know anything. I was trying to do it the old way.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that there were hybrid publishers out there that would work with you to get it done. All I knew of was Vantage Press and the reputation that had 30, 40 years ago. Oh my God, you put something through Vantage Press, that must really be a dog of a project. But that doesn't exist anymore. So.
And one of the things that I find so interesting is I don't remember who it was, but I was reading about some celebrity type who'd published a number of books. And throughout the books he's published, he's done it a variety of different ways. He's gone with traditional publishers, he's done a hybrid approach, and he's self-published. And each of those avenues, each of those venues was right for that project at that point in time. It's a totally different world, much more flexible, but I think more befuddling in some ways too.
Like you were saying, and your experiences in learning the new technologies,
Yeah.
the new ways of publishing are again very, very different, and there's so much to learn. Really, in one way, I am having an absolute ball learning a whole new career in just how to publish a goddamn book.
It's really fun though, isn't it?
It is fun, and I love it. Okay. But I had no idea there was this much to learn.
I've written one book. I have several, like you, I have so much material, I could write 20. Now I need to find the time to write the different segments for Bump in the Road. But as you were saying, it is getting a book out is far more work, I think, for most of us than most people realize. And I know for me, at least, doing the first book, one of the things that I learned was how important it is to really be very organized up front, because I ended up cutting the size of my book by half. The final book was half the size that I originally had written, and that was a very good call. I mean, it turned out to be about the right size. But there is so much to learn in writing a book. What are some of the biggest things you've taken away from it?
Well, one of the things that was greatly intimidating was a report that I got. I won a 5-star review from Reader's Favorites.
Hmm.
Okay. And they sent me a notice and told me how the judging was done. And 20% was based on the cover, which I didn't design. 20% was based upon the editing, which somebody else did. And 20% was based upon the layout, which the publisher did. And I sent a letter of congratulations to the publisher for all the help they did in getting me these 5 stars, because I only did 40% of it and they did 60.
It is a team effort, and I think the key is finding the right team.
Well, I'm really pleased with the way this came out.
When can we expect your next book?
Later this year.
What will it be on?
It's going to be 20 Years of Internet Humor, Volume 2.
Okay.
Yeah, more of 20 years of internet humor, most likely, but I'm going to use that same basic title. And then, like I say, after I get my material all out, I'll combine it in some focused issues and aging, us seniors, talking about us seniors and talking about kids. Those are always worthwhile. And I'm sure I've got enough stories about golf to make a whole issue on golf. Yeah.
The golf will probably be the biggest seller. You realize that?
I'll take it however it comes.
It's so interesting the way these themes kind of circle back in our lives. I mean, you started off in a very artistic realm, in film and writing, and here you're back, at least with the writing part.
Mm-hmm. Of course, all you need is a pencil and a paper.
Or
Well,
a keyboard.
a computer and an internet link.
I'm evolving with all these job and personal changes over time. If you could look back and talk to your younger self, what would you tell him?
Get ready for change. I mean, no matter what you do, it's going to be different. Whatever you prepare for, it's going to be different. I can think of a dozen things that I've gotten ready for, and it's different. As a kid, I could go out and rebuild a car, get under the hood, change the carburetor, check the points, all that sort of stuff. Just about a week ago, I went out and opened the hood of the car, and I couldn't even figure out how to check the oil because it has changed so much. I mean, it doesn't even look like an engine to me.
I think a lot of that change is by intent. We can't work on our cars anymore. We can't repair our washers or dryers or dishwashers. There's a certain amount of planned obsolescence, I think, and also a certain amount of wanting the service revenue, if you will, off a vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
It's another, right. Annuity stream.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting world. If you could rewrite your story in any way, would you?
Very interesting question. I would have to say no, because the things that I look back on that were in many ways, shall we say, difficult, also were some of the most informative and creative. For example, and we talked about this earlier, my dad was a career man in the military, and we moved constantly. I went to 14 schools before I got out of high school.
Wow.
And that was tough because I never made any friends. Okay. Let me rephrase that. I never made any friends that I could keep until well into high school. Because as soon as I make a friend, I move away, across the country, someplace else. And I found that, looking back on it, painful. And it was painful at the time because I came home from Boy Scout camp one time and found a for sale sign in my front yard. I didn't know if the folks had left yet or not. Okay. But I knew all of a sudden, all these Boy Scout friends I had, they're gone. Okay. Start someplace else again. But on the other hand, looking back on it, it gave me so many experiences that 99% of the people never had, and places that I've been and things that I've seen. and I don't regret it. But then when I became a father, I was moving around a little bit, and I thought I'd really like for my girls to have a hometown. So we moved here to Ohio, where my wife had family, and they grew up around aunts and uncles and cousins and friends, and they made friends in elementary school that they still have today, well out of college. And I think that is more of a benefit to them than the experiences that I had moving around. And it was a decision that I made that I'm glad I did.
Is it the emotional stability that they have that was maybe missing with all the moving?
No question about it. Yeah.
Now, it's interesting you bring that up. I've had several instances that have really fractured a lot of friendships over the years, and that I would not redo anything about my life because it's really been pretty cool. But that is one thing I would love to change. If I could just pull out that one little thread, I would stay more in touch with people, and I would have done more to cultivate those friendships through these difficult times.
That's one thing that I have found that my thought for the day has helped with, because obviously I don't write them all. I have contributors all over the country, all over the world, really. I've got a regular contributor in Berlin, Germany. And they send these things in. And some of those people I have known for 40, 50, a couple of them I went to high school with, really, and certainly some in college. And they're contributors to these stories, and we keep in touch that way. And that has been a godsend to me as a person. And it allows me to keep sort of a network of these old contacts going as well, too. So, and unfortunately, I get to let people know when somebody's passed on, because I'm sort of the center point in that.
Where can people find you and find your new book?
Well, I am at Bill at internet-humor.com. That's internet with a hyphen before humor.com. And they can go there and sign up for the thought for the day. And 20 years of internet humor is on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Books A Million and just about all the other major bookstore chains. And if they don't have it, they can certainly get it. And if they don't have it, yell at them and say, you should have this book.